know that one small mistake in food processing can put a consumer health risk. That's why the food industry follows a powerful food safety system called HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. Hello everyone, welcome back to my Food Tech Dump YouTube channels. On the channel, we talk about the food technology, food safety and real-world food industry practices. In today's video, we are going to understand what is HACCP, what is HACCP actually means, and why HACCP is so important in food industry. What is HACCP? HACCP is a stand for the Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points. HACCP is a scientific and preventive food system used to ensure that the food is safe for human consumption. The depending only in the final product testing, HACCP focus on the identifying and the controlling food safety risk during the production process itself. Most people think food safety means testing the final product, but HACCP says something different. Identify the risk before it becomes a problem and control it the right stage. That's why the HACCP is called the preventive system, not a corrective one. Why HACCP is so important? HACCP is so important is to protect the consumer health, ensure the consistent food safety, reduces the product rejection and complaints, and helps prevent the recalls and build the trust with the customer and regulations. Types of the hazards. In the three types of the hazards, first is a biological hazards. In biological hazards include the bacteria, yeast, molds, viruses and other organisms that can cause the food poisoning. Second is a chemical hazards. These hazards include the pesticides, cleaning chemicals, pesticides, neutral toxins and the plant paints. Third is a physical hazards. Includes in the foreign materials such as the metal pieces, glass, stone, plastic, jewelry and hair. Where is HACCP applied? HACCP applied throughout the entire food system chain, from the raw material receiving, processing and handling, product packaging, storage and the final distribution. HACCP is a hazard analysis and critical control point. HACCP is a scientific and preventive food safety system used to ensure that food is safe for human consumption. HACCP focuses on the controlling hazards before making its a proactive system. It works by the identifying potential food safety hazards at every stage of the food processing and the final product testing. This system is designed to identify, evaluate and control potential food safety hazards that meet any stage of the food production process, starting from receiving raw material through processing, storage and packaging up to the distribution of the final product. The primary objective of the HACCP is preventive rather than the detections, unlike traditional quality control methods that are heavily on the testing the final product. HACCP focus on the controlling of the hazards during the process itself. The proactive approach significantly reduces the chances of the unsafe food reaches consumers. Under the HACCP system, each step of the food process is studied in details. A complete process flow is prepared and analyzed to understand where the hazards may occur. At every stage of the possible biological, chemical and physical hazards are identified and evaluated based on their severity and occurrence. After hazard analysis, control points are determined as CCPs are the specific points in the process where control can be applied to prevent, eliminate or reduce food safety hazards to the acceptable levels. For each CCP, critical limits are established such as the temperature, time, pH or the metal detection sensitivity which must have to ensure of the food safety. HACCP stands for the Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point, and it is the food safety system used to identify and control food safety system hazards. Before applying the HACCP principle, we first follow the 5 basic steps. First, we from the HACCP team with the people from the quality, production and maintenance. Second, we describe the product, its ingredient, processing method, packaging and shelf life. Third, we identify the intended use, meaning who will the consumer the product and how it will be the use. Fourth, we prepare a process flow diagram showing each step from raw materials receiving to dispatch. Fifth, we verify this flow diagram or the shop floor to ensure that the matches actual operations. After this, we apply the 7 principles of the HACCP. We start the hazard analysis to identify the biological, chemical and physical hazards. Then we determine the critical control points or as a CCPs. Critical control is essentials. Next we set the critical limits such as the temperature or time. Monitoring procedure are defined to ensure critical control points remaining under controls. If any deviations occur, the corrective actions are taken. Verification activities confirm that the HACCP system is effective. Finally, all the activities are supported by the proper documentation and the record keepings. In HACCP, 5 preliminary steps are the important of the because they create the foundation for the effective and the practical HACCP plan. Without these steps, hazards analysis becomes the inaccurate, and the control measures may be the failed. HACCP preliminary steps are the ensure the HACCP system is a scientific, systematic, and reliable, not just a documentation exercise. In steps, the first step is the assemble of the HACCP team. The first step is the assemble of the HACCP team. A team should consist of the personnel from different departments such as the production, quality assurance, maintenance, and engineering, who the collectively possess adequate the knowledge of the product and the manufacturing process. The HACCP team is the multidisciplinary groups responsible for the developing, implementing, and the maintaining of the HACCP system. The team should include the representative of the quality, FSMS, production, engineering, maintenance, procurement, and stores department. Each members are the bring practical knowledge of their areas, which is help of the accurate hazard identifications. The team leader is usually from the quality or food safety department with the authority to coordinate with the activities and decisions making. Team members must have the adequate of the training in HACCP principles and the food safety hazards. In-house, the expertise is limited. External experts or the consultants. The team is the responsible for the describing the product and process, including the raw materials and the packaging materials also. The HACCP team conduct hazard analysis, each process steps. The team define the monitoring, corrective actions, and the verification process. The second step is describe the product in details. A complete product description includes the information about the raw materials, ingredients, additives, processing methods, physical and chemical characteristics, microbiological specifications, packaging material, product shelf life, storage conditions, and distribution methods also. And on the product, on the packaging material mentions the pricing, nutritional values. In the detail, the description helps of the understanding how to the product characteristics and may the influence of the food safety risk and the support the accurate hazard identification during the HACCP analysis. Describing the product is a critical step in HACCP that helps the identifying food safety hazards accurately. In this step, the complete and the clear information about the product is documented. All the raw materials and ingredients, including the additives and the processing aids, are the listed. The physical, chemical, and microbiological characteristics of the product are the defined. Detail of the processing methods, for example, of the baking, frying, and included also. The packaging type of the laminated pouch, carton, metallized film is specified. Product shelf life and storage conditions for mentioned in the reports. The distribution methods, for example, of local, export, and in distribution methods control temperature control or not is recorded. And main information is allergen information if any is clearly identified. And these details product the description forms in the basic of the effective hazard analysis and controlling the HACCP. Third is previous step is the identifying the intended use of the products. This involves defining how to the product is expected to the used by the consumer, such as the it's ready to eat, ready to cook, or the require the further processing before consumptions. The intended consumer groups are including the vulnerable populations such as the children, elderly persons, or the compromised individuals should also be considered. Any special instructions related to the cooking, reheating, or the storage after the opening must be identified on the packing materials. As a misuse of the product can significantly increase the food safety risk. Identifying intended use means defining the how the product is expected to the use by the consumers. And these steps of the helps is the assessment of food safety risk related to consumptions. The HACCP team that determines whether the product is ready to eat, ready to cook, or the require further processing before the consumption. The fourth step is a construction of process flow diagram. A process flow diagram is a systematic representation of the all steps involved in the manufacturing process, starting from the receipt to the raw materials through the processing, packaging, storage, and the final distribution. The diagram should include all the process steps, delays, rework, storage points, and the outsource of the activities, and the applicable of these steps the crucial because it provides a clear visual overview of the entire process and help in the identifying points where the hazards may occur. And the constructing the flow diagram means the preparing a clear step-by-step visual representations and shows the sequence of the operations starting from the raw material receiving to the final product dispatch. All processing steps such as the cleaning, mixing, heating, cooling, baking, frying or packaging are included. The diagram also covers storage stages both of the raw material and finished goods. Supporting activities like the rework handling, reprocessing and waste disposal are shown in the flowgram. And transportation within the plant and any outsource of the process, if applicable, are the included in flowcharts. The flow diagram should be the simple, logical and easy to understand. It must be the reflect the actual process followed on the shop floor, not just SOPs. The fifth and the final preliminary step is the on-site verification of the process flow diagram. In these steps, the HACCP team physically verifies the flow diagram by the walking through the production area to confirm that the documented steps accurately reflect in actual operations. Equipment uses, process sequence, material flow, and the potential cross-contamination risk are the carefully checked. Any discrepancies between the documented flow diagram and the actual practices are the corrected to the ensure accuracy. This verification ensures the HACCP plan is based on the real conditions within the facility and not assumptions. On-site confirmation of the flow diagram means the verifying the prepared process flow directly at the production area. The HACCP team physically walks through the entire process on the shop floor. Each step in the flow diagram is compared with the actual operations being carried out. These 7 HACCP principles are the essential in the food industry because they are the provides the systematic and the preventive approach to the food safety products. They help the identify the monitor and the control of the biological, chemical and physical hazards at the every stage of the production manufacturing operations. Critical control point and the critical limits ensure that the control is applied where it matters most of the preventive unsafe food from the reaching consumers. Monitoring, verification and the corrective actions allow it the early detection of the deviations and the maintain of the consistent product safety. Proper documentation and the record keeping provide the traceability, regulatory compliance and evidence for the audits. Implementing the principle reduces the food safety risk, recalls and contaminations while the promoting the continuous improvements in the process and the product quality. Overall, they are the ensure the safe, high quality and the compliant food products for the consumers. In 7 principles are the first principle is the conduct hazard analysis is the first principle. Is the hazard analysis in the step of the HACCP team in identify the evaluate all the potential food safety hazards at each stage of the process. These hazards are the in type of the 3. First is the biological hazards, second is the chemical hazards, third is the physical hazards. Biological hazards in the bacteria, mold, yeast, viruses and pathogens also such as the Salmonella, E. coli. Second is a chemical hazards. In chemical hazards in the pesticide residues, cleaning chemicals, allergens and heavy metals. And third is a physical hazards. In physical hazards are the foreign materials such as the metal fragments, glass, stone or plastic, woods. Each hazard is the assess or the based on the likelihood of the occurrence and the severity of the impact on the food safety. And the only significant hazard that can affect food safety are the selected for the control. And the existing control measures such as the good manufacturing practices, product temperature control, material sieving or the metal detections are also identified during this analysis. The second principle of the HACCP is determination of critical control points. A CCP is a step in the process where control is the essential to prevent, eliminate or reducing a significant food safety hazards to unacceptable levels. The HACCP team reviews the results of the hazard analysis for each process step. Decision tools such as the CCP decision tree may be used for the identify the CCP systematically. Only step associated with the significant hazards are the considered the potential of the CCP's critical control points. For example of the as a CCPs, first is the heat treatment, baking, pasteurization, metal detector, sieving and chemical dosing. Each CCP must have the measurable and the variable control methods. Not all the process steps are CCP. Many hazards are managed through the prerequisite program as a PRP such as the GMP, GHP and more just cleaning, sanitations. Correct identification of the CCP is critical to avoid over control or the under control of the hazards and ensure the effective food safety management and the compliance with the HACCP requirements. The third principle of the HACCP is establish critical limits. Establish critical limits is for the each critical control point. A critical limit is a measurable value that separates acceptable safe conditions from the unacceptable unsafe conditions. Critical limits can include for the temperature, time, pH, moisture content, chlorine concentration or the metal detector sensitivity. Each CCP must have at least one clearly defined, measurable and scientifically justified critical limits. Critical limits are usually based on the regulatory standards, scientific literatures, validation studies, expert advices, and the maintaining the operations within these limits ensure that hazards are effectively controlled. If a critical limit is exceeded or not met, the product is considered the potentially unsafe. Clearly defined critical limits also help the operators take immediate and correct action during the processing. Purpose of the critical limits are essential for effective monitoring, hazard control, and implementation of the corrective actions in HACCP. The fourth principle of HACCP is establishing a monitoring system. Establishing monitoring system for each critical control point as a CCP. Monitoring is a planned sequences of the observations or measurements to ensure the CCPs remain within their critical limits. Monitoring procedure clearly define what is monitored, how it is monitored, when it is monitored, and who is responsible for the monitoring procedure. Monitoring can be the continuous, for example, automated temperature sensors or the periodic for the manual checks. Accurate and legible records must be maintained and easily retrievable. These procedures maintain the purpose of the provide early detection of the deviation before unsafe food product is produced. Ensure preventive actions are taken promptly and effectively. Confirm that the control of the measure as a CCPs are the functioning correctly. A strong monitoring system is essential for the consistent food safety and HACCP compliance, allowing time corrective actions and maintaining the consumer safety. The fifth principle of the HACCP is establishing corrective action. Corrective action are the predefined steps for the taken whenever monitoring shows a deviation from the critical limits at the critical control point. This purpose is to ensure that unsafe food does not reach consumer and the food safety is restored promptly. Corrective actions will include the isolating or rejecting affected products, investigating the root causes of the deviations, adjusting the process to bring it up under control, implementing preventive measures to avoid the recurrence. The HACCP team defines who is responsible for the taking corrective actions and the exact step of the follows. Documentation for the corrective actions is essential for the traceability, verification, and audit purpose. By establishing the corrective actions, the HACCP system ensures that any deviation at CCP is promptly managed, maintaining the safe food production and the compliance with the regulatory requirements. The sixth principle of the HACCP is establishing verification procedure. Verification ensures that the HACCP system is functioning as intended and the food safety hazards are effectively controlled. Verification confirms that the hazard analysis is complete, CCPs are correctly identified, critical limits are the appropriate, and the monitoring and corrective actions are the properly implemented. Verification activities are the internal audits for the process and records, calibration of the measuring instrument, for example of the thermometer, metal detector, pH meter, sampling and testing of the products for the microbiological, chemical or physical hazards, review of the monitoring and the corrective actions records, reassessment of the HACCP plan after changes in product, process or regulations. Verifications are provide the confidence that the HACCP plan is effective, accurate and compliant with food safety standards. It helps the identify areas for the improvement and the prevents potential food safety failures before the operations. The seventh and final principle of the HACCP is establishing documentation record keeping. Proper documentation ensures that all the aspects of the HACCP system are the traceable, verifiable and the auditable. Documentation should be the HACCP plan with hazard analysis, critical control points and critical limits. Monitoring procedure and CCP records, corrective actions taken during deviations, Verification activities and results, records for the prerequisite programs, PRPs, GMP, sanitation and pest control. A record must have been accurate, legible and readily available for the auditor or the inspections. And documentation supports are the regulatory compliance, traceability in case of the recalls or the other incidents, continuous improvements of the HACCP system, accountability and the consumer confidence. Proper record keeping evidence of the control, ensure traceability and the demonstrate of the compliance with the food safety standards. Thank you so much guys for watching my video. Please share your valuable feedback in the comments. Subscribe to my channel and don't forget to share this video. Thank you.